I paid $22.50 to be turned away at the gate. That's life on the road sometimes. But New Mexico had a lot more waiting, and most of it I never saw coming. This is Cochiti Lake, and all of this is what 14 more days in New Mexico actually look like. I'm Nancy. This is Willie. He's a park ranger now, and we'll get to that. In this video, a heat wave I wasn't prepared for and how I handled it. A gate I couldn't enter, holy dirt that people walk 90 miles to collect, a drive to 8,500 feet through villages that time has treated gently, and a community of people living off the grid in houses made from old tires and glass bottles, who I think might be kindred spirits to every single one of you watching this. Let's go. Cochiti Lake is an Army Corps of Engineers campground, and if you haven't tried one yet, put it on your list right now. Scenic, underrated, and the price is right. I booked 2 nights in a full hookup site and then 12 nights without hookups. That transition really wasn't a choice, it was availability. Most of the other campers I met were in the same situation. That's just how it works here, and once you accept it, you're fine. What was not fine, or at least a little unexpected, was the temperature. We're talking about March. I expected cool desert nights and mild 70-degree days. What I got was a heat wave running 10 to 20 degrees above normal, with the worst of it landing right around 4 to 6 in the afternoon. So here's how I handled it. For those peak hours, I ran my portable AC unit off my EcoFlow battery just a couple of hours, right when the heat was worse. Then the next morning, once my solar battery banks were full, I'd let the EcoFlow recharge and do it again. Even though I have a ton of solar on the RV, I didn't want to use up my battery power with the AC, so I used my EcoFlow as an extra power source. The system worked exactly as it's supposed to and maximized my off-grid power. The rest of the time, my fantastic fan kept things comfortable, and when I needed to head into Santa Fe, which was about 30 to 40 miles away, I could leave Willie safely in the RV with the fan running and monitor the temperature inside with my Wi-Fi connected thermostat. I check my phone, see 75 degrees, and go about my day with complete peace of mind. One more thing about this campground. Less than 4 miles away, there was a gas station, a convenience store, and a laundromat. I said there was a convenience store that was 4 minutes away from the campground, which I didn't believe. And there is. It's a gas station, convenience store, and laundromat. 4 minutes away from the campground. That's so cool. Out here, surrounded by tribal land, with mountain views and absolute quiet, finding a laundromat that close felt like a gift. Little things matter when you live on the road. I want to show you what's up the road from here, including that gate that would not open for me, no matter how nicely I asked. But first, let me tell you what I learned so you don't make the same mistake I did. Kasha-KetuweTent National Monument was on my list. I did my research. I went online and purchased a tribal pass for $22.50. I have a National Park Senior Pass that I figured was good for the entrance. What I did not realize is that Tent Rocks has a 2-system setup. You need a tribal pass and a separate timed reservation through recreation.gov. And these 2 systems do not communicate with each other. You can complete your tribal pass purchase without ever being told that there's no timed entries available on the day of the tribal pass. There is no field to enter a reservation number. Nothing stops you. You just drive up to the gate and find out the hard way. So there's the gatehouse right there that I cannot get in. So I will turn around here. I did get back $20 on the tribal pass, not including the taxes and fees. The actual reservations to enter the park were booked out a month in advance. I was frustrated, not at the people working at the visitor center. They were as helpful as possible, but at the system. The fix seems so simple. Add 1 field to the tribal site to enter your recreation.gov reservation number before you can make that purchase. 1 field, done. But here we are. So if you're planning to visit Tent Rocks, and it looks absolutely worth it, so please do go. Book your recreation.gov reservation first, months in advance, and then get your tribal pass. Don't do it backwards like I did. This is also a reminder that when you're covering hundreds of miles and planning as you go, you cannot always research months ahead. You don't even know what's in the area to do sometimes. But for the popular ones, start earlier than you think you need to. This trip keeps teaching me that. Here's what came next. A small dog is about to earn his first official badge, and 3 extinct volcanoes I had almost entirely to myself. Willie and I headed to Petroglyph National Monument, about an hour away. The park bills itself as pet-friendly, and it mostly is. But Willie wasn't allowed at the actual petroglyph viewing area, so we pivoted, the way you do, and drove over to the 3 volcano site. Not a big deal, since we had just done the 3 Rivers Petroglyph Park last week. Willie could walk the path up to the scenic overlook. Not all the way to the rim of the volcanoes, but close.
We've reached the scenic peak. A whole half-mile of walk with Willie. This is the black volcano. This is the one I planned on trying to go up to the top to, and you can actually go up to the rim. However, dogs are not allowed on this part of the trail. There's no sign there that says that. Maybe there is up a little further when you hit the gravel. This is the only way right now that you can get up to the top of Black Volcano. There's 2 other trails that are closed. And this volcano has trailheads that are also closed. So it looks like at some point you could climb to the top of that one, and maybe in the future you can. This is the view of the Rio Grande Rift. In the back you can see the Sandia Mountains. This geologic area lies between 2 dynamic fault zones or cracks in the earth crust. From here you can see the Sandia Mountains, the eastern edge of the rift. The western edge is near Rio Puerco. Rock movement along the faults continues to cause the Sandia Mountains to rise and the Rio Grande Valley to widen and sink. And over there is downtown Albuquerque. You can see the sign, "Do not enter." There is a path that would go up to the top. They're temporarily closed. Trespassing beyond the sign is subject to fines and or arrest. So you can see those people walking down. The whole loop, if you do it, is about 1.9 miles. We did the half-a-mile loop back down to the parking lot right there.
And standing there in the New Mexico desert, looking at 3 extinct volcanoes rising out of the earth, I thought, I cannot believe I get to see this. This is what this trip is for. And then Willie made it official. He earned his first Bark Ranger badge. For those who haven't encountered the Bark Ranger program, it's the National Park Service's way of welcoming dogs into the park responsibly. BARK stands for Bag Your Pet's Waste, Always Leash Your Pet, Respect Wildlife, and Know Where You Can Go. Willie takes his responsibilities very seriously. He wore the badge with the appropriate dignity, went only where he was allowed to go, and made sure I cleaned up after him. From here, we drove north towards something I'd been curious about for years, a place where people believe the dirt itself has the power to heal. But before we get to that, a quick stop in Santa Fe, which I visited a couple of times from Cochiti. One trip happened to fall on Palm Sunday. 3 churches were hosting the Blessing of the Palm ceremonies near the plaza, and the whole area was packed in a way I wasn't expecting. So I did what any seasoned solo traveler does. I got out of the plaza, stocked up on groceries, got Willie his very overdue grooming appointment, and called it a good day. Sometimes the best travel skill you can develop is knowing when to adjust your expectations and just go with it. But the real destination that day was up the road, a small adobe church that 300,000 people walk to every year, some of them on foot from 90 miles away, and a pit of earth inside it that the people have been calling holy for over 2 centuries. El Santuario de Chimayó is a small adobe church in a tiny village about 25 miles north of Santa Fe, right along the high road to Taos. It's sometimes called the Lourdes of America, and the story of how it came to be here is layered with centuries of history. Long before the Spanish arrived, the Pueblo people considered this site sacred. Healing spirits were believed to live in the hot springs that flowed through here. When those springs dried up, the healing was said to remain in the earth itself. Then in 1810, on a Good Friday, a local man named Bernardo Abeta saw a light shining from a hillside on his property. He dug into the earth with his bare hands and found a large wooden crucifix. The villagers tried to move it to a church in nearby Santa Cruz, and 3 times it disappeared and returned to exactly the same spot it had been found. They took that as a sign, and by 1816 they had built the shrine that stands here today. Inside the church, there's a small room called El Pasito, the little well. In the floor, there's a small pit of earth filled with holy dirt. People come from all over the world to take a small amount with them. Some rub it on their bodies. Some, like me, carry it home for someone who couldn't make the journey. The walls of the room next door are covered with discarded crutches, braces, and photographs left by people who believe they were healed here. The church itself takes no official position on whether miracles have occurred. What they do is keep that pit filled, replenishing it from the nearby hillside, sometimes more than once a day, up to 25 or 30 tons of earth every year. And people keep coming. They keep taking the dirt, and the church keeps refilling it. You're not allowed to take videos or pictures in the church itself or in El Pasito. Each year during Holy Week, about 300,000 people make a pilgrimage to this small adobe church. Some walk from as far as Albuquerque, 90 miles away. The tradition was revived after World War II by survivors of the Bataan Death March, who had made a vow to God that if they made it home, they would walk to Chimayó. I'm not here to tell you what to believe about any of that. What I can tell you is that this is a place where you feel something, a quietness, a weight of history and faith that I wasn't entirely prepared for. I walked in curious, and I walked out genuinely affected. I visited during Palm Sunday week. Given everything I know now about this place, the timing felt right. Chimayó sits right on the high road to Taos, one of the most beautiful drives in the American Southwest, and I want to show you what it looks like when you climb to 8,500 feet through villages that haven't changed much in 3 centuries. The high road to Taos is a national scenic byway, and that destination is earned. The route winds through the Sangre de Cristo Mountains, passing through Spanish land grant villages that have been here for centuries. The landscape shifts as you climb. You start in high desert, and then gradually the terrain opens up into a mountain forest and views that keep getting bigger. I had checked the forecast that morning, and the winds were significant. Anyone who travels in an RV knows that moment of mental math. But up here, with mountains on one side and trees on the other, I barely felt it. The road is sheltered in a way the open highway never is. The route takes you through villages like Cordova, Truches, Las Trampas, and Penasco, each one quieter and more removed from the modern world than the last. Las Trampas was founded in 1751 by a royal land grant. The families who settled it hand-dug miles of irrigation ditches to bring water from the river. Water pipe. It's a log cut out of the top that looks like it could have been a way to get water into town. Some of their descendants still live there today. By the time you pass through Penasco, you're climbing towards 8,500 feet. The air is different up here. Thinner, cleaner, cooler, even in the heat of day. And the views. There's a scenic overlook. So we're gonna come up here and let the truck in back of me just drive, even though he's having a tough time making it up the hill. You can technically drive the whole route from Santa Fe to Taos in about 2 hours, but you should definitely allow time to pull over, get out, let the altitude and beauty and the quiet do their thing. If you ever find yourself between Santa Fe and Taos, take the high road there. Take the highway back if you want, but take the high road there. You can thank me later. The high road ends in Taos, and what a place to land. Just outside of town on a desert mesa, there's a community of people who decided to build their own world from scratch. And when I drove through it, I thought about every single one of you. I got to spend the night with a friend here. One of the genuine joys of this kind of travel, when you're on the road for months at a time, reconnecting with people along the way isn't just nice, it's necessary. It's what makes the solo part feel less alone. Taos is a town that rewards slow walking. It's been drawing artists, writers, and free thinkers for over a century. Georgia O'Keeffe painted here. D.H. Lawrence lived here in the 1920s. There's something about the light in the landscape that seems to pull people who want to see the world differently. We wandered through the shops, and I have to tell you, there are 3 chocolate shops in this small town. 3. And I took that as a sign. I ended up at the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory and came away with some of the most remarkable chocolate I've had in 2.5 years on the road, with a side stop at Chocola Bean to Bar for an espresso hot chocolate with Aztec cinnamon spice infusion. Yum. If you go to Taos, do not skip the chocolate. Next, we stopped at Rio Grande del Norte National Monument, where the gorge opens up below you in a way that is so breathtaking. The bridge over the gorge is no longer open to pedestrians, so the overlook is where you experience it now. But even from up there, looking down into that ancient river cut through the high desert, it stops you cold. And then there's this. Just northwest of Taos, as you're driving Route 64, you'll see what looks like a small community from another planet rising out of the high desert mesa. Curved walls, glass fronts, structures that seem to emerge directly from the earth. These are Earthships. Back in the early 1970s, an architect named Michael Reynolds had a radical idea: build homes from recycled materials that could take care of themselves completely. Old tires packed with earth for thermal mass walls, glass bottles and cans embedded in adobe, rooftops designed to harvest rainwater, solar panels and wind power for electricity, greenhouses, no utility bills, no connection to the grid required. I suspect that sounds familiar to a few of you. Those of us who live in RVs already understand the appeal of that idea. We manage our own power, our own water, our own systems every single day. These people applied the same philosophy to a house, and they've been doing it for 50 years. There are now over 100 Earthships in the Taos area alone, forming what's called the Greater World Community. Some are available to rent by the night if you want the full experience. I drove through slowly and felt a quiet kinship with the people who looked at the conventional way of living and decided it wasn't for them. 2.5 years ago, I was the person who thought that living in an RV was radical and maybe even a reckless idea. And now I'm driving past people who built that same instinct into the walls of permanent homes. And I completely understand them. That's what this life does. It changes what looks possible. 14 more days in New Mexico, a heat wave I handled with systems I already had, a gate I couldn't enter, a small dog who's now officially a bark ranger, holy dirt that people have been walking 90 miles to collect for 2 centuries, a drive to 8,500 feet through villages found before this country was a country, the best chocolate of the entire trip, and a community of people living off the grid on a mesa outside Taos who reminded me why I started doing this in the first place. I didn't plan most of it. That's the point. When you live this way, whether it's in an RV, an Earthship, or anywhere else outside the conventional script, you stop trying to control every detail and start getting really good at just showing up, at being present for what's actually there instead of for what you planned for. Unless you want to hike Kasha-Katuwe. I don't know exactly what's coming next week on this trip. I have a general direction and some ideas, and that's enough. I know that whatever lies ahead will be a great adventure as Willie and I continue heading further west. More mountains, more national parks, more bark ranger badges, more surprises, more moments I didn't plan for. Thank you for coming along with me on this journey out west. I'll see you next week.